Hello, Mark. This is TNA Wrestling star Joe Hendry here. I'm told that, Mark, you're passionate about your birthplace, Newfoundland. You have a YouTube channel promoting the place. That's very cool indeed.
Are you old enough to remember the moon landing? Do you remember where you were when you heard Buzz Lightyear utter those famously crackly words?
One giant leap for mankind.
I bet if you're watching this video, you'll be able to tell me what you're doing on the morning of September 11th, 2001. Not all of you, I'm sure, if you can believe it. That was nearly 24 years ago as of right now. But I bet a lot of you probably will. For anyone around my age or younger, can you remember the moment when Family Matters dropped, and then practically by the time you were finished listening to Family Matters, Meet the Grahams dropped? Nah, that kind of just happened, but it still counts. These are some of the big "where were you when" moments that people talk about. Sometimes these moments are monumental and felt over entire populations, but there are other examples that we all experience that are much more personal, things that we experience as individuals. There are certain moments in my life that really sit with me. Moments that seemed to be insignificant at the time, but that have left a mark on me in a big way. A lot of these moments come from my childhood, but I've been busy adding to the collection in recent years. As an adult, some of these big personal moments are the obvious ones, like getting married, for example. That's a good one. And being in the room when my two sons entered this world will stay with me forever too, obviously. But sometimes there are these small, odd moments that create a feeling that just becomes a part of you. Unsuspecting, unplanned moments of like, what was that? This happens for me in Newfoundland a lot these days. Playing catch up with my parents after spending so many years away from home, touring the island and discovering towns that I only knew about from traditional Newfoundland songs. Introducing my young family to this place to make sure they know where their daddy comes from and, in effect, where they come from. These are activities that create the warmest kinds of memories. This brings us to Fogo Island. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to Fogo Island. I've spent a lot of time talking about what makes this place magical in other videos, but the magic really lies in something that is more of a feeling than any object or location or establishment that I can specifically show you in these videos. Don't get me wrong, the landscape is amazing. The hiking, the art, the restaurants, the history, the ferry, the inn. I could point to all of these individual elements of Fogo Island, examples of what to see and do, but all of these things combine to form something much greater than the sum of its parts. I'm no hiker, but the hikes on Fogo Island are undeniable. I've trekked out to see the Great Auk statue. I can't tell you what I ate for supper last night, but I swear I remember every step I took on that Joe Bats trail. I took the Stairmaster path to the top of Fogo Head Trail, and I swear I remember every step. My 4-year-old son and I climbed to one of the 4 corners of the flat earth at the top of the breathtaking Brimstone Head Trail. The pride he showed in reaching that peak with me, that's going to stay with me forever. The as-expectedly delicious fish and chips at the Cod Jigger. The unexpectedly delicious coffee and sandwiches from the Punch Buggy walk-up window. And the unexplainably surreal experience of ordering excellent Chinese food from what has to be the most remote Chinese restaurant in all of Canada. These are the kind of things that you just won't find anywhere else. These are some of the things that make Fogo Island special. These are the things that stay with you because they take you by surprise. But even with all these places, events, and things in mind, it always comes back to the feeling. Fogo Island is just not like anywhere else, and I feel that in my bones. These examples I just mentioned are the indices in my mind, like the avatar from that particular moment in time. But what I really remember is how I felt in those moments. I can't speak for anyone other than myself, but when I think back on any of my trips to Fogo Island, the thing that rushes back to me is always the feeling that I get when I'm there.
Fogo Island, a 90 square mile patchwork of 10 minuscule fishing villages where clapboard houses the color of jelly beans cling to rock 400 million years old.
Maybe the most vivid memory I have from Fogo Island is of something that actually could have happened anywhere. But it didn't. It occurred in our Airbnb in Joe Bat's Arm one night after a day of enjoying many of those elements of Fogo Island that I've been talking about. It has nothing inherently to do with Fogo Island. But that's where I happened to experience it, so that warm feeling will forever be associated with that place. It happened one day in October 2023. I was sitting around the Airbnb with my mom and dad, which itself magnifies my happy memory as I don't get to spend much time with them these days. We were watching the 24/7 TNA Wrestling streaming channel for some reason. Oh, okay. I think I should explain something before continuing for anybody who doesn't already know. I love wrestling. Now just bear with me here for a moment, please. I'm going to tell you a little bit about professional wrestling now. You know, the WWE, formerly known as WWF, if Hulk Hogan is your reference point. Like, there are some other games in town these days, and that is going to be an important thing to remember for what I'm actually talking about here. But for now, just know, I love professional wrestling. Explaining why I love wrestling to people who don't care about wrestling is still kind of hard to do, but I don't mind doing it. I'm a grown man in my 40s, and I still love it. Yes, I know it's not real, but I promise you it can be more real than you know at times. But that's not the point. Wrestling is not for everyone. People who love it, but many, many other people find it completely uninteresting and would prefer to just turn the TV off rather than having it on playing in the background. Many, many people will never understand the draw, and that's perfectly fine with me. I absolutely understand that. Wrestling is different from most other forms of entertainment, and honestly, it's pretty weird. I'm talking about wrestling like this in a video about Newfoundland is kind of appropriate. That general description of wrestling that I just gave is kind of like Newfoundland in a nutshell. Some people love it with all of their hearts, but many, many people are confused about why anyone is interested in it at all. Newfoundland is not everyone's cup of tea. The weather's pretty bad, the economy is, shall we say, challenging. In a lot of ways, it's a place that can be described as pretty weird. I'm not alone in thinking about it as the most amazing, most interesting place in the world, but I can absolutely understand why someone else would question my sanity for feeling this way. But anyways, back to the memory. So, as I said, we were watching the TNA streaming channel. Please understand, TNA, Total Nonstop Action, is a second-rate wrestling promotion. And back in October of 2023, even calling it second-rate was a stretch. But we just didn't have many options for what we could watch at this particular Airbnb. There was no cable and we didn't have a lot of options for streaming services. TNA has made big strides in the past few months and it's actually a pretty enjoyable program now. But back then it wasn't great wrestling. But for whatever reason, we settled on it and we watched it for a pretty long time. And that's when it happened. That's when I discovered Joe Hendry for the first time. If you don't know, Joe Hendry isn't a wrestler, he's a phenomenon. I have 4 favorite active wrestlers right now. These 3 guys, and then this guy. It makes no sense, but it's amazing. He doesn't follow any of the molds that a wrestler should follow. He's a cornball, but it's amazing. I don't know how much of this I can show you without this video getting demonetized, but I can say that I'll never forget watching him come down the ramp doing his over-the-top Joya dance with his clearly shy tag team partner. It wasn't until after this that I discovered his amazing and famous We Believe shtick, which is what has propelled him to stardom, but he had a new fan in me right from this moment. If you enjoy wrestling at all, I implore you to search up the Joe Hendry Joya entrance, Joya. If you don't enjoy wrestling at all, but you're still here, thank you, you're amazing. In any case, I was a mega fan instantly. Today, Joe has worked his way into becoming the TNA heavyweight champ and kind of turning that promotion into watchable TV. But what is astounding to me is that he has actually gone on to chart his entrance song on big streaming services and on legit pop charts in countries around the world. His face literally pops up in crowds at rival wrestling company shows all the time. This year, in 2025, he was a surprise entrant in the WWE Royal Rumble, even though he is the champ in a rival promotion. And even more surprising, he just made an amazing appearance at WrestleMania this year, facing Randy Orton, a bona fide legend of the business, in what may have been the funnest segment of the biggest show in the business. These things just don't happen, none of them. And the first time I ever saw him was on a little TV in the little red shed at Joe Bat's Arm on Fogo Island, sitting next to my mom and dad. When it comes to Newfoundland, there are a lot of good stories to tell. My story today is about one of the many, many reasons I hold Fogo Island in such a special place in my heart. I paid my first ever visit to Fogo Island just in 2021, but I've returned every year since. It really is a magical place. Something about a secluded island off the coast of a much larger, but no less secluded island makes you feel like you've really gotten away from it all. This particular experience didn't happen because I was on Fogo Island. Though if we were anywhere else and had more options to watch on our TV that day, it likely would have never happened. But my experience took place in a very specific little cabin, in a very specific corner of Joe Bat's Arm on Fogo Island, and it really only could have ever happened right here. And I'll never forget it.